got thousands of people that are watching this live, and you guys get a little bit more of a treat watching it live because you get to be here and actually ask some questions of a guy that I have so much respect for. I'm super excited about today. We're going to keep the interview probably around 35, 40 minutes, do about 15 minutes of Q&A, and we will be done in 1 hour. But I believe that this hour will make a significant impact on you, like it did on me. Like I'm confident of that. And so stay around with us the whole time, or if you're watching this on the replay, we're going to only keep this up for a few days because Ed doesn't do a lot of interviews like this. Ed is one of the most in-demand speakers in the world right now. And I know that because I have so many clients that are constantly asking, like, how do I get Ed? How do we get Ed? How do we make Ed happen? How do we make this happen? And so I want to start this off with a proper introduction. A lot of you know that this message, and Leaf, come back to my shirt, this message really means something to me. And you can leave it on that angle for a minute. This message really means something to me because I believe in people's messages. I believe that right now in our time in history, there is so much hate, so much negativity, so much divisiveness. And I believe that people who have powerful messages can go back out and make a difference in the world. And I believe that's you. I believe that's every one of you. And so as many of you know, and if you don't know, in 2003, I was a youth pastor in Hereford, Texas. And one man came in and spoke, and he talked about his daughter being the first victim killed at Columbine back in 1999. And he talked about how his daughter had left 6 diaries and a paper that she wrote 1 month before she was killed called My Ethics, My Codes of Life. It is what she stood for. And in that ethics and codes of life, she said, I have this theory that if one person will go out of their way to show compassion for another, that a chain reaction will happen and our world will never be the same. And as you go into her diaries and you read the stories, it was her being a demonstration of that, of a gal who lived a compassionate life. On April 20th, she was the first girl killed at Columbine. She died for her faith that day. And her dad began to read these journals and this paper called My Ethics, My Codes of Life that he found. And he started to say, how do I get her message out to the world on a bigger scale? And in 2003, I stated something to my family and friends. I hadn't heard but maybe a few hundred speakers in my life at that time. But I said that was the most powerful keynote that I had ever heard in my life. Why? Because my dad heard it. And it's the thing that made my dad go home and write me a multiple-page letter saying, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here my son is having an impact on hundreds of people's lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. He asked me for a second chance to do things right, and he told me he loved me for the first time in over a decade. An abusive relationship, now all of a sudden, restoration and reconciliation and forgiveness. So when I say and state that that was the most powerful keynote that I had ever heard, it's because of the impact that it had on me. And so now you fast forward 20 years, and there isn't anybody in the world who I know is more responsible for getting more messages out to the world on a bigger scale than me and my team. So now I've heard thousands, if not tens of thousands of keynotes. And here's what you will consistently hear me say. That was one of the best keynotes I've ever heard. If you could look back on all of my socials, you look back from the history, one of the best, which in my mind makes it a top 10. But a couple of months ago, I got the chance in person to meet Ed Mylett for the first time as he was walking on stage, driving through California traffic, not knowing what to expect. I was just there to serve our client, Kent Clothier, as powerfully as I could. And Ed walks on stage, and I go back to the green room because I want to hear this keynote. And here's the picture I want you to know. There's a guy to my left who is the complete opposite of me, like very hardcore, very intense. Then you got me, who's super emotional and soft and, just like different. And then you got a guy to my right, or a gal to my right, excuse me. Well, there was a guy and a gal, a couple sitting there who I know the guy, and he's somewhere in between us. And I sit there for the next hour and I'm blown away, because usually a keynote cannot captivate all three types of folks like that, who are all completely different. And the common theme is not one of those people moved from that sofa. Every single one of them were in tears. We were crying. It was like you had highs, you had lows. It was out of this world. And I went the next week and I stated, this is the most powerful keynote that I've ever heard since 2003. Not one of, the. And so I want you to know, I reached out to Ed Mylett via video. I said, dude, and I won't tell you some of the other things that God prompted me to say, but the one thing I knew I was supposed to say is, bro, that keynote was the best keynote I've heard, and I've heard thousands of them. Now, maybe it's because of the element of a father and a son that's incorporated into that. But I asked Ed, I said, Ed, my people need to hear this. I want them to have elements of it today, and I want them to be able to experience the whole thing that I experienced next week. And he said, dude, you got it. And so I'm honored today. I'm excited that this is now, I would call him a close friend. In 2 or 3 months, like, the friendship has grown so much. And to see him be a demonstration, stay up here for me, to see him be a demonstration of this message is so profound. And so for the next 35 minutes before I bring him up, we're going to interview him. And here is my request. My request of you today, this is my community. Like, I love you guys, Facebook, YouTube, Zoom, everywhere. My request is that today you're going to hear something, and I want you to take one action out of today. One action in your life out of today that will make a significant difference in your life around the power of one more. The power of one more. That will make sense here in about 40 or 45 minutes. I'm going to ask you to take an action for yourself, and I'm going to ask you to take an action for me. I'm just going to tell you, there isn't anything crazy or exclusive that's coming up. I'm asking you this today, guys. I'm asking you to get Ed's book. And I want to make it a no-brainer. And I want people in the comments dropping comments here in a minute that say, you know, I got a book, I got 2 books, I got more than 2 books. So here's what I'm asking you. This will be shipped to your house. The pre-orders are happening. June 1st, they're going out. I'm going to take every single person who gets his book, $27, that's shipped to your house, hard copy. Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you already. And I'm asking you to get it. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you this recording of this interview. We're going to do a signature talk audit call. I'm going to give you our Communicate to Convert course. And you get a ticket, a virtual ticket to Ed's event next week, next Friday, where he has so many rock stars, free all-day event, nothing else except about the power of one more. And Ed will open it up next Friday as the keynote. And it's an all-day virtual event that you're going to get access to just for getting his book. Just for getting his book. And for some of you that are like, I want to step it up a little bit, we're going to give you everything in the $27 bundle, but here's the 2 things that I'm going to do in addition. I'm going to give you 2 books because I believe you need to give this book to a friend. I do. I believe a friend will be better because you give them this book. I do. And here's the other thing I'm going to include in that. You'll get 2 virtual tickets to next week's event, virtual Friday. And here's what I want you to know. I'm going to take that talk that I heard 2 months ago, and Pat Quinn and I are going to break it down to show you why Ed Mylett's talk was the greatest talk that I've ever heard. We're going to help you understand all of the elements of what he did in that 45 to 60-minute talk. We've never done this before. We've done it for presidents and people like Oprah and Steve Jobs and some of the most famous talks in the history. But I want to do the talk that made a deep impact on me. So we're going to break down his talk as well. And you're going to get 2 books. And then the last thing, and this is it, we're going to get right into the interview. For anybody that wants to get crazy, There are about 250 to 300 people that are going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina next Friday. I just thought some of my community might get crazy. And listen, the tickets for this have been thousands of dollars. But Ed's team said, Pete, if you want to allow your community to come out there, since you will be emceeing the whole thing, Mel Robbins, Rob Deirdrick, Eric Thomas, Ed Mylett, Andy Frisella, Dean Graziosi, Marie Forleo, Maria Menounos, Jim Quick. Next week in North Carolina, an all-day event. If you say, I want to get out to Raleigh next Friday and be there in person, there's about 25 or 30 spots. And I told them, I think that my community, for that crazy price, plus you get 4 copies of the book. 4 copies of the book. And you get to be in person and you get everything. I'm going to ask every single person. When I had TD Jakes on here, I asked every single person to take advantage because I believed in TD Jakes' book so much. And I've only done this 2 times in my career. One for TD Jakes and one for Ed Mylett. That's it. So least minimal viable option, get the book. We'll ship it to you and you get all of those crazy things. You can see that I want to really incentivize you to get 2 books or 4 books. And we're trying to make it a no-brainer for you today. So that's it. There's nothing else that we will be talking about outside of the content of the power of one more. And I want you guys to go to mylettbook.com. And I just want you through the course of this interview, Ed, I got my 1 book. Ed, I got 2 books. Ed, I got 4 books. I want Ed to feel the energy and the power of this group. Can we do that? Amy, can we do that? Ron, can we do that? Get the settings thing off of here. Lisa, can we do that? Tara, can we do that? Facebook, can we do that? YouTube, can we do that? Like, drop it. Ron Jones, drop it. I want him to know the power of this book. I told him this book is going to make a significant impact on this world. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I want, especially on Zoom, we have thousands of people watching this live. Thousands of people. Look at that. I'm in for 4. Ron, look at that. Look at that. I'm in for 2. Ed, I'm in for 107. I bought 2. I got a book. I got it. I want your number. Guys, give some love. I got goosebumps to my dear friend, Ed Mylett. Come on, everybody. Let him see you. Let him see you, everybody. Woo! Yeah.
I'm sitting here overwhelmed, brother. I don't even know what to say to you, bro. Like, I love you, and man, it's not easy to talk right now. So thank you so much, man, my beautiful friend. We've become very, very close in a short time. God sent you into my life, without a doubt. I was getting ready for this morning. I was telling my wife, I said, God sent this man to me. No question about it. The fact that you were there that day, the fact that, you know, Holy Spirit started kind of pouring through me that day, got out of me and took over. And then what you've just said just blows my mind. I want to thank everybody for all their support. I'm watching these comments. I'm like, man, the water's pouring down here out of my eyes. So thank you so much. And I want to serve everybody today too. You and I want to make sure that this time right here changes people's lives too. So I'm so honored to be with all of you, and particularly you, Pete. So thank you.
Yeah, guys, the thing I didn't tell you that's really important for me is my wife, Kim, has a very discerning spirit. Like, it's very discerning. Like, we had a massive fallout at our church about 10 years ago, a very terrible situation with the senior pastor of some things that happened there. And the first Sunday night, we were sitting at the welcome reception or welcome lunch. And my wife and I was with the senior pastor in kind of a rock star mentality, and everybody worshiped this person. And my wife had this discernment about him. And we walked off and she said, something's not right. Wow. And I'm like, babe, you're crazy. You are absolutely crazy. Like, be quiet. Do you know who that is? Like, George Bush and all these people. Like, and then 4 weeks later, CNN, breaking news everywhere. Wow. And this is what I can tell you. Kim doesn't say it often, but when she sat down with Ed Mylett at a birthday party we were at together, she's like, that guy is special. Like, he is incredible. He is an incredible human being. Wow. And so I'm honored to have you here today. And I know Kim was excited. Lots of people will be getting, hundreds of thousands of people will be getting this interview, but I want to serve the thousands that are here on all of our channels today. So Ed, talk about the concept of the power of one more. Like, I want people to understand, anybody who gets a book next week will get the entire event for free, So they'll get to hear the whole thing, but talk about that concept and where it comes from, Ed.
Yeah, it's got like maybe a couple connotations, but the main concept that where I learned these things is my dad. And the first 15 years of my life, I don't know why today it's particularly difficult to talk about. I was praying a lot. I was talking to my dad this morning. So today's really unique that you're asking me this. I'm already choked up, but my dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict the first 15 years of my life. And the reason I believe human beings can change so passionately that I believe this because I watched my hero do it. The first 15 years of my life, my dad did not live right, didn't live well, didn't live up to his potential. And it was a difficult place to grow up. And then we were driving one morning. My dad was a guy. Like, I see my dad in physical fights, right? Like, my dad was a scrapper. And you were driving one morning and we're going to one of my baseball games and my dad's crying as he's driving. And I've never seen him cry ever before that day, nor after ever again. And so water's pouring out of his eyes. I'm like, what is going on with dad? And so he pulls over and he doesn't even make eye contact with me at first. He just goes, Eddie. And I'm looking at him, but he's not looking at me. He goes, I'm going to try to get sober one more time. And then he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to give it one more try. There's a whole chapter in my book called One More Try from this experience, because I've made one more tries lots of times in my life and business when I was about to quit. And I said, well, Daddy, what would make it any different this time? And he says, I'm going to lose you and your sisters, your mom's. I'm losing my family. And I don't want to lose you. And you deserve a husband. Your mom deserves a husband she can respect. And you deserve a daddy you're proud of. So I'm going to give this one more try. And he went away. And he came back and he was sober. And then the next one more came up. I said, Dad, are you never going to drink again the rest of your life? Like, is our family great now? You know, because when you come from that kind of a family, you're ashamed. You're embarrassed. It crushes your self-esteem. Why can't I come from a normal house? What's wrong with us? I come from that. And he goes, I don't know if I'm never going to drink again, but I know I'm not going to drink for one more day. And he'd get up the next day and not drink for one more day. And man, I can't even tell you how many times in business, sometimes we think we have to make these permanent decisions, right? How many times my back was up against the wall and I'm like, I'm just not going to quit for one more day. I'm just not going to quit for one more day. And these other one more started to stack up, brother, where many times in my life, my dad, I remember there's one more theme just like ripping at me all the time, which is why I did this in the book. And the book's very heavy. There's a lot of very detailed strategies on your brain, on neuroplasticity, on time management, on leadership. This is not a rah-rah emotional book, but it comes from something emotional. It's a very tactical book, very tactical. But then I remember one time, Christiana and I, my wife and I, who I dated since elementary school, were walking on this beach. It's right here. I'm looking at it. It's called Victoria Beach. We were walking on this beach. I said, babe, I'm gonna get us a beach house there someday. Right? And she says to me, great, let's do it. You know, how are you gonna do it? I go, I haven't figured that part out yet. And I remember driving home, I dropped her off. She lived down the street from me. I said, hey Dad, who are these people that live oceanfront? Who are these people? My dad goes, I don't know, Eddie. I've never met any of them. I have no idea. Maybe they're Martians. I'm not completely sure. You know, and then it dawned on me, when you see a happy and successful family, happy or successful, at some point back in their lineage, they weren't. And then the one shows up in that family, the one, and the one changes everything for that family. They change the way the world treats them. The world doesn't have their thumb on that family anymore. They change the way they think, the way they live. Everything about that family changes. And in my family, because my dad made that one decision, I'm the one. I became the one in my family using all these principles. I've changed my family tree forever, brother. Forever, I've changed my family tree. And my dad said, I don't know how you get there, but here's what I do believe. You're closer than you think. Wow. I said, what do you mean, Dad? He said, the problem people have is they think these dreams they have are so far away. And so because it's so far away, they act in accordance, Eddie, with that belief, and it always stays there. But the truth is, I was one decision away from becoming sober. It wasn't years. It was one moment, one decision. He goes, Eddie, I know how that works. I think in the real world and everything of your dreams, you're one decision, one thought, one emotion, one meeting, one relationship, one moment away from totally changing your life. And that's the principle of the book. You're much closer than you think you are. And so I watched my beautiful father live the next 35 years better than any human being that I've ever known. And these one mores were the reason that he did it. And so one mores, what my dad did to change his life, I did to change mine. I just did it in business. I did it with relationships. And for everybody listening to this, you deserve to do something great with your life. You were born, you have the DNA of the King of Kings, man, running through your blood. You were born to do something awesome with your life. And here's the hook. It's not as far away as you think it is. It's one decision. It's one thought, one new emotion, one meeting. One of these right here, this 1 hour away from completely changing your life. And so the ripple effects, man, have been just dramatic in my life. And I wanted to write a book to honor my dad, but also to teach people, you know, what I've done to transform my own life. And so it all started with that car ride. I'm going to try one more time. And here we are.
Wow. Wow. Guys, I'm just sitting here because there's things I haven't heard. Like every time I'm around Ed, like it's not all the same stories. Like there's different elements of how this applies.
Can I share one with you, bro, that you haven't heard because it just happened?
Yeah, please. I would love that.
I'm sure. I think this may be the biggest lesson, and I'll just give this to everybody because it's not in my book. So I'm 51 years old and I just wrote my book, and I'm proud of the book. I think it's the best book on how to change your life that's ever been written. And I love Think and Grow Rich. It's my favorite book other than the Bible. But you don't just think and get rich. You got to do stuff. And so I wrote the book about what do you think and what do you do in congruency that produces a result. 3 weeks ago, I wake up in the middle of the night in tears, and I don't cry much myself, but I do. I woke up out of this dream in tears, and I go, babe, wake up, wake up. She goes, yeah, because before I tell you this, let me tell you what I think is going on with all of you, including me. We think we're not qualified to change other people's lives or our own life. And we're disqualified because of something we're ashamed of, or a failure. Maybe we had a bankruptcy, a business that failed, a divorce. We've just been average all our lives. And we think this just disqualifies me. These things you don't know about me, Mylett. Ed, you don't know. I've got this stuff I'm pretty ashamed of. It's pretty embarrassing. And we think that's what disqualifies us from our dreams. And so I wake up and I said, babe, you're not going to believe that just occurred to me. Someone helped my dad. Someone helped my dad. She goes, what, honey? I said, someone helped my dad in the darkest moment of his life make that decision. I've never thought about it. There's some person that helped my father. Some precious soul, and my dad's on his knees in the most broken state of his life, losing his family. Some human stepped up in the most important moment of my life. And I didn't know it, of Max and Bella, our kids' lives who weren't even born, millions of people who hear from me in all their lives. This person stepped up and saved my dad's life. She goes, oh my God. And I said, I don't know who they are. And it never occurred to me that another human helped my dad. And she says, oh my gosh, babe. I said, babe, it's bigger than that. I said, what qualified this person to help him? She goes, oh my God. I said, their most ashamed thing. The fact that they were also an alcoholic and a drug addict. The very things they thought disqualified them from ever changing other people's lives, from ever making a difference, from ever doing anything great in their life, was the very thing that qualified them to help my dad. Had they not been an alcoholic or a drug addict, not stole money, not driven drunk, not lied and hurt people, not made huge mistakes, not failed so far in their life, they couldn't have helped my dad. Their humanity, their frailties, their weaknesses is what God used in that moment to save my dad. And there's millions of people who think those are the things that disqualify me. The truth is, your test becomes your testimony. Your mess becomes your message. And I know we've heard that phrase. This is proof. I'm speaking to you because of this person's drug addiction, not because they were perfect, not because they lived all the way through their life wonderfully, but because they changed their life and they came from weakness. They came from shame. They came from embarrassment. Is what qualified them. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And I know maybe you've heard this, but this is living proof of it. And so the very bags you're carrying with you that are weighing you down to this call this morning where you go, this is all great. I love these messages. They're so nice, but you don't know about me. I've never done anything great in my life. In fact, I've even done some stuff I shouldn't have done. Those are the things that qualify you. Those are the very things that qualify you. In fact, my keynote's not any good if I don't have a drug addicted and alcoholic dad. Isn't that crazy? So that's how God uses all of us. And the more we become aware, God's using me right now. God's preparing me right now. And the more you believe that, the more you will step up in the moment when needed and both change other people's lives and your own at the same time.
Wow. Yeah, guys, you got stuff that's not in the book.
Yeah.
That's not in the book. Like, and I'm just sitting here right now. I'm ready. Like I'm ready to get to. I'm ready. Like, and Ed, what I'm excited about is next week at the event we're going to be focusing on 3 domains, and I'd love for you to give some tactical stuff on this. Like next week we're going to be talking. It's going to kick off with your keynote, but then we're going to talk about the power of one more in your health, the power of one more in your relationships, and the power of one more in your wealth or your career, your job, your entrepreneurship journey, whatever that is. And we've got 3 powerful speakers in each of those 3 areas. But maybe folks aren't there next week, and I hope everybody is. And just by getting one book that we will ship to you, that will arrive at your house, that comes with hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of bonuses at mylettbook.com, like, we're going to make this a no-brainer to pick this book up. And I hope you don't just pick it up for you. I hope you pick it up, Leaf, behind the camera, for one of your friends too back there, and you give it to one of your friends. But Ed, how do we take this concept that you so beautifully just articulated, and how do we begin to apply it today in our life? Like when we're done with this call today, whether it's in the health bucket, the relationship bucket, the wealth bucket, like how do we begin to apply this today?
Well, we got a grab bag in the book. There's hundreds of strategies, and they are very detailed. I want you to be honest with you all. When you're reading this, there'll be many chapters that will resonate with you, some more than others, and some of them you're going to read multiple times because it is heavy. But let's use one thing. Let me give you one strategy. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. I have a chapter in the book called The Matrix. If you've all seen the movie The Matrix, I like The Matrix for 2 reasons. Number one, in that movie, what is Neo? He's the one. He's the one, just like I just described. But it goes deeper. The Matrix talks about slowing things down to bullet time, where you begin to see things that you wouldn't see before. Your RAS in your brain is the filter that reveals the entire world to you. So that's why you don't feel the blood rushing through your right ear right now. You're not conscious of your breathing. You'd go crazy if you were aware of everything. So it shrinks the world down to what's most important to you. Okay, so I'll give you an example. You will begin to see, hear, and feel things that were always there that you were oblivious to before. The very things that will deliver on your dream, that will deliver on your vision, that will change your life. So I'll give you an example. I like what Musk is doing right now. I have no idea whether he's really buying Twitter or not. I just like the moves this dude's making. He's living all out, right? So I told my staff to this, hey man, get me a Tesla. Next day, a Tesla Plaid shows up in my driveway. I'm driving a Tesla now, which is kind of cool to have the wealth to do that. I understand all that. I remember the days where I was like, hey, I'd like to fill my gas tank up. And I didn't have that. But now I want a Tesla. It's there the next day. So I get this Tesla. Now all of a sudden I'm driving on the freeway. I'm like, babe, red Tesla, white Tesla, another white Tesla. These Teslas are freaking everywhere, honey. 3 lanes over the other side of the freeway, going the other direction. Babe, black Tesla. She's like, you've lost your damn mind. I go, what? Where'd they all come from? And she goes, I don't know. I said, guess what, honey? They were always on the road. I just never saw them before because they weren't important to me. Now I see them everywhere. You've all had that experience when you bought a new car. Or if you go into a room, it's loud. And audibly, it's not even loudly said, your own name, Ed. I can hear my own name over all the noise. Why? My RAS hears it because it's important to me. The key thing in life, and I show you how to do it, is to make your goals, visions, and dreams your Teslas. And successful people understand how to program their mind. And it's very simple. It's just repeated visualizations that are very simple that I do. And all of a sudden you begin to hear things, see things. You'll find the relationship. You'll hear the thought. You'll hear this call differently. You will see the account you were missing before. You'll hear the conversation about the product that you have that you were oblivious to hearing before. And all of a sudden, some people call that the law of attraction. No one ever understands it. Forget all that stuff. It's your RAS filtering stuff into your awareness that delivers on your vision. But if you're most familiar with your worries, your fears, your anxieties, and you believe them deeply, your matrix finds the proof to reveal those to be true to you as well. And you start to build references for it to where it's actually true. So if you believe you're a victim, if you believe you're behind, if you believe you can't make it, if you believe you're not smart enough, if you believe people don't take you seriously, if you believe the market's changing, if you believe any of this stuff, your RAS starts to hear, see, and feel things that prove that to be true also. My mother-in-law, that's why I love you, Pete, loves the Lord. I love the Lord, but this woman loves the Lord, right? You ever have someone like this? She sees Jesus legitimately everywhere. You walk outside with mother-in-law, little breeze on her. Thank you, Jesus. Me and you just feel the breeze, right? Anything that happens. I bought her flowers for Mother's Day. She calls me. She says, God is so good. Jesus, he must have. I said, well, Mom, I've been sending you those flowers for 30 years, but I'm sure it was Jesus that put it on my heart this year. Yes, right? And she goes, you won't believe the young man that came to the door. He had the most beautiful smile. And I said, do you know Jesus? He said, oh, I love Jesus, Mary. He said, Jesus sent him to my door that day. She sees God everywhere in her life. What a beautiful RAS, right? Most of us, though, we see what we're afraid of. We block that meeting and don't hear it. We block that meeting and conversation. We block that relationship. The truth is, you're one relationship away, one decision away, but you have to be able to see, hear, and feel them. So working on your RAS makes them your Teslas. So that's one strategy. We could go through any ones you want.
Wow. Like Leaf and I are in here just like, guys, I mean, drop some love in the chat. Like, I'm just in here like, man, I could be here all day, and I am going to be there all day next week. I'm so excited about it. So, man, that's one strategy. Let's get another one.
Let's serve everybody. Okay. So if you lack self-confidence, you've probably heard me say this before. One of the ways, if you lack self-confidence, one of the reasons you do is you've consistently not kept the promises you make to yourself. You may have even heard that before. I don't know if I was the first person to say it. I think I was, and then everybody said it, but I'm one of the first. And I've been saying this for years. So you don't have a reputation with yourself where people can trust you. So one way to build baseline self-confidence is just to begin to do the things you promise. So for example, every day I drink a gallon of water. I drink 2 of these. It's something I can actually do. I can't control external forces. I can control this jug. I'm on my 2nd jug today. I'll drink probably more than a gallon today. I make my bed. I set my clothes out the night before. I work out. There's things I can control that I do that have taken me from an unconfident, insecure, shy, from a screwed up family dude into a pretty confident man because I've kept the promises. I started to keep the promises I made to myself when prior I had not, because I had a father who didn't keep them. My dad would promise himself he'd quit drinking and he couldn't do it. Promise himself he'd come home at 6 p.m. and not go to the bar after work, and he didn't do it. So I was raised the first 15 years by a father with no self-esteem or confidence. And things with our children are caught, not taught. We catch these things. In fact, I had a friend the other day, before I give you the strategy, she said to me, boy, you grew up in such a neglected environment. It's amazing how you turned out. And she says, and in my case, I did too. My parents got divorced and I was neglected. She goes, I'm so glad neither one of us neglect our children. And I've known her for 30 years. And I said, Sarah, you know, I love you. She said, yeah. I said, can I say something difficult to you? She says, yeah, Eddie. I said, I think you're neglecting your children. She goes, no. I said, there's different types of neglect. One is divorce. One is drug addiction. One is you just don't tell them you love them enough. But I said, one of the most insidious forms of child neglect or grandchild neglect is a parent who's not in pursuit of their potential. Wow. Not in pursuit of their dreams. You're neglecting your family. You're neglecting your children by not pursuing it. And they're catching that from you. And they're going to catch that it's okay to settle. You can't just say, sweetheart, you can be whatever you want to be. Why aren't you, mama? And I said, I'm telling you this, and I'm saying this to everyone here, because I believe all great things in life are achieved through love. My dad got sober because he loved me that much. He loved his family that much. And you love your family. It's probably time you stop neglecting them and pursue your potential. Take some actions. Do something great. And so it starts by keeping those promises you make to yourself. But in life, we only get about 25% of our goals if they're real. So I have a chapter on how to set goals. I'll show you how to do that. But the more important chapters after it on standards, because we always ultimately get our standards. Eventually in life, you get your standards. And so what if you change the standard? I'm going to help you become superhuman right now. I changed my life and became a baseline functioning person when I started to keep the promises I made to myself. And because I am average, I don't have a big IQ. I'm 4th out of the 4 in our house, 760 SAT, C student. I'm a good talker, but I'm not particularly bright. I'm also not dumb, but I'm not bright. I don't have a high IQ. I said, what would I need to do? So I changed the standard. And here's the standard. I keep the promises I make to myself, and I do one more. So if I say that I'm going to get up every day and do 30 minutes of cardio, I do my 30 minutes, and then I do one more minute. If I say I'm going to make 10 contacts in a day, I make my 10 contacts and I do one more. If I say I'm going to tell my daughter every day, I love you, Bella Boo, I do that every day. And then I do it one more time. And I've completely transformed my life by slightly elevating that standard to one more. And those one mores have stacked up over 30 years of my life. So it's just way more activity, but it's transformed my identity. I'm not someone who just keeps promises to make themselves. I go beyond that. I do one more. And the difference between winning and losing in life is so small, it's almost too scary to talk about. And that difference is one more. The difference between winning and losing are the one mores of your life. And so change the standard of one more and you transform who you are as a person.
Man, I cannot tell you how much that resonates with me. Guys, if you would do an audit of your day, one day, of the promises that you've told yourself, whether it's I'm going to work out for 30 minutes, I'm going to drink water, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to, like every morning, one of my routines is Kim and I lay on a PEMF mat that alkalizes all of our cells.
So do I.
And we breathe in 900 liters of oxygen, which takes about 10 minutes for me to breathe in 900 liters of commercial oxygen that literally now fills those cells with oxygen. Now, here's what I want you to see. Many days I'm like, crap, I've got stuff to do. I got to go. And sometimes I don't finish the 10 minutes. I get like 7 minutes in. And I have a little bit of the bag still left. I'm like, that's good. I still got 600. But something inside of me feels so unaligned because I've made a promise to finish that thing and I didn't finish it. And I believe it puts me out of integrity in my day, right out of the gates. And so like just keeping your promises, like this morning, I'm like, I'm finishing. I know I have the interview with Ed coming up, but what's 2 more minutes? Well, guess what? I'm going to go 3 more minutes now. I'm going to go 11 minutes, not 10 minutes. And you might say there's not oxygen in there because you've got it all done. That's all right. I'm on a treadmill. So I got 1 more minute on the treadmill. So just that simple thing of keeping your promises to yourself and that being tied to confidence, Ed, I've never heard that. Like,
the whole book will have, here's what I did. And I love you. I do the same program as you know. And then I lay in the infrared bed when I can too.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Right. And, but I must say to you, I didn't want to write another book that's just, you ever read a book and you're like, I think I've read this book before. It's just got a little bit different words in it. I think I've read this book before. There's a lot of those. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be a brand new, modern, how to change your life. And one other thing I'll add, I'll give you one more gift, time. I have a chapter on time management. When you're hearing these things, people are like, well, it's hard to do in a given day, man. This is hard to do. I'm busy. You know, time gets away from you. Let me share something with you. There's a whole chapter on time management. You've all had a time management. Okay, do the urgent thing first. What can you leverage? You know, blah, blah, blah. All right. Everyone's got that. It's never worked for me. So what I did about 25 years ago is I literally changed the concept of time. I bent and manipulated time. So if you want to change your life, you'll read this book. You'll get it in a minute. I'm like, why is a day still 24 hours? Why? What an antiquated, ridiculous concept of measuring time that a day is 24 hours. Some crap about the sun and the earth's rotation, whatever. We're measuring time the same way we did 300 years ago. Are you freaking kidding me? 300 years ago, if I wanted to get correspondence to Pete, I had to handwrite a letter, somehow get it written, stick it on the back of a horse's butt. That horse would travel for a month and find him, maybe. He would then get the letter, read it. If he wanted to write me back, he had to find a way to write the letter, stick it back on a horse's butt. Another month, maybe it finds me again. And days were 24 hours then. Then cars were invented. Then electricity, cars, light, phones, internet, smartphones, and days are still 24 hours. Don't you think you can get a little bit more done in a given day now than someone living 200 years ago? Yeah. How about 100 years ago? How about 50 years ago? How about 10 years ago? But you're still calibrating time the same way they did, as is every other dummy walking around the earth right now that's a human being, except a few of us, starting with me. And I went, that's not a day anymore. A day is 6 a.m. to noon. That's a day. We've all had that morning where we go, I've got more done in this hour than I did in 3 weeks. No kidding. So what if that could be most days? Now, by the way, some 24-hour days for me are Netflix and chill. Some 24-hour days for me are just church. So it's okay to have screw-off days. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the way you approach a day needs to change. My first day is 6 a.m. to noon. I'm in day one right now. And at noon now, after time, this little clock goes off in my head around noon. I mean, I know when it's noon. And it goes, what did we just get done? What did we miss? What's on the list we need to double and triple? What am I grateful for? Did I get the fitness, fun, finances, money, contacts, whatever it is in my day? I've bent and manipulated time. Day 2 starts, right? Day 2 starts noon to 6 p.m. Amount of fun, family, fitness, faith, contacts, business, money, whatever it might be. That's a day. And I measure that day. It's an entire day. And so what happens is now at around 6 p.m., another clock goes off. What did I get done? What did I miss? What did I enjoy? What am I grateful for? Just like you do in a 24-hour day, I do in what is now a real day in real time. For me in high school, I had to go down to the library, research stuff, encyclopedias, write it all down. My daughter Googles it, has the same stuff in 2 seconds. She's going to measure time the same way I did in 1980. That's insane. Third day, 6 p.m. to midnight. Same thing. Now I get 21 days a week and everybody else is getting 7. Stack that up over a month. Who's ahead? Stack it up over 6 months. Who's ahead? Stack it up over 6 years. I've had thousands more days, thousands more opportunities to win. And I've completely transformed my life with these mini days. When you first do it, it won't work. When you do it for about a month, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I'm more accountable. I'm more focused. And here's the biggest hook that you won't anticipate, but I'll give it to you. The rest of the world responds to you completely differently. They treat you differently. The reason they treat you differently is what's rare or scarce is considered precious in our culture. That's why diamonds are worth more than paper. When your time becomes more rare and precious and you start measuring time differently, you vibrate at a higher frequency, the world begins to respond to you differently. And I'm just going to tell you, the combination of how I use my RAS, how I manage time, how I do my one mores, how I think about life has completely changed. But one of them is the fact that I get 21 days a week when the rest of the world's only had 7. This is a strategy that will transform your existence on this earth. You'll have more fun, more bliss. Your faith will grow. Your finances will change. Your business will change. So when I tell you this is not another book, I mean it when I say it. So there you go on time.
Guys, that's 3 unbelievable strategies, 3 amazing strategies. I'm curious out of the 3, because I want you to actually pick one and do something with this today. Like this is a gift to you. This is a gift. Like Ed's time is precious. We're in day 1, and this is a gift. 3 strategies that he just talked about. It's the reticular activator, everything of seeing and visualizing what you want. And a lot of us are living in fear, like he said. He talked about keeping your promises to yourself to gain more confidence. And he talked about 3 days in 1. And listen, I do the 3 days in 1. I heard him teach that 2 years ago. Now, my last day I know is critical because it's not, my day 1 is 6 to 12. Day 2 is 12 to 5, or 12 to 6. And day 3 for me is 6 to 11 because I want to be asleep by 11 o'clock. That's me. But I'm living 3 days in 1. And it's amazing because I can then batch things into those 3 days. The thing I haven't been doing is analyzing the day, and I need to analyze that day a little bit better. Ed.
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of my days are just fun, just like your 24-hour days. You have to go, oh my gosh, this is all this work. It's not. And by the way, combine all of this with the new belief system that my life experience is actually what qualifies me, not what disqualifies me. And you're different. If I could say one more thing, man, before we do Q&A, if you want to know the power of one more, and by the way, I love you, but if you want to know the power of one more, it's when I take it from you and you don't have it anymore. So I don't know how I can get through this today, but my dad had cancer for about 8 years. And when he first got cancer, he said, I'm only going to fight this one time with this chemo. I'm not going to ruin myself and have you guys remember me this way. So that led to 8 years. Chemo, radiation, surgery, proton therapy, chemo, experimental chemo, new radiation, proton, surgery. And I watched my dad just fight. And I would say, Dad, why are you doing this when you said you wouldn't? And he goes, maybe I'll get to one more wedding, one of my granddaughters. Maybe I'll get to one more Christmas play for my grandson. Maybe I'll watch Max get to play golf one more time. He goes, Eddie, when you're faced with never getting any more of these one mores, you'll be surprised at what you'll fight for. I didn't know how precious one more was. And then when my dad called me, it was COVID. He was in the hospital, and my dad has a really deep voice like me, but he didn't anymore from all the treatment. and call me, say, hey. And I'm downstairs in the parking lot like I was most days because I wasn't allowed to go see my dying father. He goes, come get me. I said, Dad, I can't come up. I can't come get you. He goes, no, come get me. Take me home. I said, Dad, we're not doing that. You're going to get another steroid shot. You're coming around. I have one more day. All these one mores, Pete. I have one more day. And he said, I want to spend it at home with your mom in my home. And I'd like you and your sisters to be with me. Please come get me. I have one more day. I said, let me call your doctor. And I called the guy, picks up right away. I said, hey, Dad's talking crazy. He goes, you should come get him. And my heart sank. And he goes, they know. I said, who is they? He said, a dying person, Ed. They know. 5 hours later, my dad, an ambulance, wheeled my father into his home for the last day of his life. And I sat there with my sisters and I held my dad's hand as he took one more breath and then one last breath. Watched my father's body no longer exist. And I watched him go to heaven. My favorite thing, man, in my life was to be with my father. Probably play golf was my favorite. We're not good golfers. It was 5 hours with my best friend right there, talking about life, faith, deep talks my old man and I would have. Do you know what I would give for one more round of golf with my dad? If you have living parents and you're listening to me, what if you only have one more talk with them? What if I told you right now with your precious children or grandchildren, you get to spend one more day with them? How much more precious would they become to you? How much more valuable would that conversation be? Your sweetheart, whoever they are, if you have one, I said, you get one more dance. How precious would that be? See, when you only have one more, you realize how amazing it is to have it. And when you can no longer have it anymore, like I can't with my dad, man, do you wish you could have one more? If your parents are alive, take those one more seriously. Children, grandchildren. What if this was the last meeting you were going to watch? The last conversation? What if you started to approach most things in your life like, if I only have one more of these, how much more focused would you be? Because the truth is, you don't know how long you have. When my dad passed away, a lot of things occurred to you, but one of them for me, man, was I'm next. I'm next. And I don't know if that's 5 minutes from now or 55 years from now, but I'm the next Mylett. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to take this time of my life and go, this is what I know. I'm 50 years old. This is what I've learned in 50 years about how to become more happy and more successful. If your parents have passed on or any loved one of yours has passed on, honor them with who you become. Honor them with your pursuit of your potential. And if there's one thing my father proved, it's never too late. My dad helped people get sober at 80 years old and change their life. So my father is proof that you're not too late, that there's still time for you. And God bless the fact that you actually do get one more. You have one more day. You have one more chance. You have one more meeting. You can make one more call. You get to have one more new emotion. You get to have one more thought. And so it's pretty precious when I take it from you, isn't it? The good news is for many of you, actually all of you listening, we know you at least have one more day. And I would max that out.
Wow. I mean, guys, I see Gary Martinez taking notes. And Gary, what I would challenge you and everybody listening is, what is that one more right now? Like when we're about to leave here in 10 or 15 minutes, what's that one more thing that go do it like right away? Mm-hmm. And I think for many of us, I love what Daryl, the reason why my dad apologized to me, and I've never told Ed this story, is Daryl was up there on stage in front of all these parents. And he said, I didn't know April 20th was going to be the last day that I ever saw my daughter. I was supposed to go before her. And he said, parents, you have no idea how much time you have left on this earth with your kids. Will you go home? Will you make a commitment and go home and tell them how much you love them and how much they mean to you? And for those parents, some of you need to go ask your kids for forgiveness for something. And that prompted my dad to say, I might not be here tomorrow. My son might not be here tomorrow. But I'm going to go take that one more action to make sure that I make things right with my son. So you want to know why this keynote resonated with my spirit so much more? Because my dad walked out the power of one more that night by going and writing me a letter and taking one more action to make sure that things were right with his son and him. And to me today, all of you, this book is going to change the world, but all of you can go change your world right now. I'm going to challenge you and encourage you to go take one more action with a loved one in a relationship to let them know how much you love them. Or maybe for some of you, you need to go ask for forgiveness for something. But that is my encouragement and challenge to all of you to go do that. Like now, right now, I'm going to go upstairs and tell my wife that. Like, I'm going to go tell her that as soon as this interview's done. Listen, how many of you were blessed by Ed's interview today? Like, can you drop that in the chat? Let them see your body language in Zoom, Facebook, YouTube. I'm going to let them see the most powerful comments today. I see my boy Jordan Linscomb. I see Gary Martinez. Turn your cameras on. Let Ed see your body language fill up, and Tommy and Brendan and Alexander and Jorge. Like, you were blessed and I was blessed.
Pete, I have to ask you something. Pete, I'm dying to ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you say April 20th?
Yeah, April 20th.
Bro, you're about to fall over. And how God connects things. That conversation with my dad in the car, the day my dad got sober, my dad's sobriety birthday, that is the only birthday he ever celebrated the rest of his life, was never his real birthday, was his sobriety birthday, is April 20th.
Wow.
Is April 20th. Bro, those two talks just went. Are you serious? Is that not unbelievable? And by the way, that's heavy. The funny thing is, only my dad would get sober on 420. Only my dad would, right? But man, that's absolutely bananas. There's 365 days in a year, and both of these are on April 20th. That's the connectivity is just, it's unreal. God's so good.
I love it, guys. So I love, unbelievable. Hey, this is what I want you to do. If you heard me at the beginning, and if you'll focus on this, Lee, for a quick second, here's my request. We've put together something because we think this book is going to change the world. The book's like $25, and then there's $2 of shipping. Like, we're giving you all of this stuff just to buy one book. One book. I see people holding up their congratulations. Go get one book. For some of you, go get 2 books. We're going to give you all of this stuff. Plus, I'm going to reverse engineer what makes Ed's keynote so powerful. So when you take your message out, it's powerful too. We're going to reverse engineer it, break it down, and make sure that anybody who gets 2 books gets that. Plus, you're getting a couple of virtual event tickets to next Friday's event that Ed's hosting, all around the power of one more virtually. And let me just talk about that really quickly. Ed, Eric Thomas, Maria Menunez, Marie Forleo, Jim Quick, Rob Dyrdek. I could go on, but it's an all-day event about the power of one more in your health, the power of one more in your relationships, and the power of one more in your wealth and your professional career. All day, free event. If you get 1 book or 2, we're going to give that event to you all day as well. And then somebody dropped this comment earlier. For those of you that say, man, I would love to be in the room, I got permission because I'm the MC. There's about 25 spots left in the room of seats. And somebody earlier said, you can't get in the room for $197 with any of these individual speakers, more or less all of them. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina, flying on Thursday night. Come experience. If you had an incredible experience in this hour, imagine what one day around your health, your relationships, and your wealth is going to be. And so this person gets 4 books and is saying, I want to come out to Raleigh. And if you can't come to Raleigh, still get 4 books, because you are advancing this message. You're advancing this message. Ed, I know we got a little bit of limited time, but anything you want to say about next week's event? Because I might have chopped it up a little bit.
No, you nailed it. A lot of people are asking me that aren't on there, what's the website? And the website that you're using is mylettbook.com, correct?
Mylettbook.com. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's where you go. The thing I would say that about next week's event is it's myself, Frisella, Andy, Eric Thomas, Jenna Kutcher, Maria Menounos, John Gordon's an unbelievable communicator. Jim Quick's going to work on your memory for you. Mel Robbins, Rob Dyrdek is one of the best entrepreneurs in the world, obviously from Ridiculousness on MTV. You guys know Rob. So I just put together the group of people, and Marie Folio is a powerhouse. And so the entire thing's free. It's not one of these like frees and then like we're doing it. It's free. And so I'd go to mylettbook.com and get this thing going. And the opening is me, and I'm going to give you my A game that day as well. And it's just my way of paying the planet back, paying all of you back for being so good to me. I know the book's going to change your life, but this event will be insane in terms of the inspiration and the tactics you'll learn as well. So, and by the way, the best MC on the planet with Pete. So we're good to go.
Hey, Ed, I got a question, but before I do that, hey guys, drop it. I want him to see it. Did you get 1? Did you get 2? Did you get 4? I'm asking every one of you. Today was worth $27 to you. Like, I'm calling you out and saying, come on. This isn't one of those things where it should be the average conversion. This should be 100% of you. Like, if you are committed to changing your life, somebody just said, I upgraded. Like, upgrade. If we have to go figure out how to give you the 27 back, like, we'll figure that out on the back end. But this book won't just change your life. It'll change everybody in your life's life too. So that's why I'm encouraging you to get 2 or get 4. Ed, one of the promises I made, and I'm just going to ask you because I know you have an interview in 5 minutes, maybe can we figure out 20 or 30 minutes on the schedule to come back and do a little bit of Q&A, because we don't have Q&A. I promised 15 minutes of Q&A. So I don't know what to do with the Q&A time because I made that promise. So tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, 100%.